I'm here with Adam Stokes, an Upper Sixth student here at Leighton Park, standing as councillor at Surrey Heath for the Liberal Democrats. Adam, what made you stand as councillor for the Liberal Democrats?
Well, first of all, I stood as a councillor because I believe I'm incredibly passionate about my local community and I really want to help people in my community. And I feel that the council at the moment doesn't do what it should to look after its community. And the reason I chose the Liberal Democrats is because I believe they're the party of fairness. I believe they're the party that is in the middle of British politics rather than leaning off to the left like the Labour Party seems to have done and going off to the right like the Conservatives have done. They're the party that wants to have a fair, balanced view of society while also being economically responsible.
Okay, so what does a borough councillor do and how do they get elected?
Well, if I was to be elected, what I would do is I'd be responsible for representing local people on local issues. This would include things like waste collection, looking after local parks, looking after local recreation and things like that. And basically what you need to do is to get elected, you can either be elected for a party, like I did, so you have to get in contact with your local party administration, and then you'll sort of ask them, do you have any, and occasionally it depends on how many people want to be a councillor, depending on if you have to have sort of tryouts or if you get put straight in. Okay. Or you can also run as an independent, so if you're interested in politics and want to stand but aren't politically aligned to any party, you can still get the application forms by contacting your local borough council, you can still get the application forms and you can run and organise your own campaign as an independent candidate.
Okay, so who do you think your main competition is going into this election?
Oh, well, definitely the Conservatives, because in the southeast of England it's a very, very Conservative stronghold. But I feel that there's quite a lot of dissatisfaction with the way the Conservative Council works at the moment. And I feel I could definitely push them and hopefully get them out of office.
So on that, what do you think your chances are of being elected?
I have got a good chance. I mean, people have sort of said, oh, the Conservatives will win because the Conservatives are quite dominant. But I genuinely think I think we've campaigned really hard, and I mean, all my team has been brilliant. I think I've worked hard enough. We've sent out free leaflets, we've knocked on doors, we've been to all sorts of events and met local residents. I feel I have a really good chance, I think.
Okay, brilliant. So, what are the main Lib Dem policies towards education and students?
Well, I think the Liberal Democrats find education incredibly important because we are a Liberal party, and one of the key issues of liberalism is making sure everyone has equal opportunity. So the Liberal Democrats, for example, one of their key policies, I think, would be to increase the education budget in England by £2.5 billion a year. Other important issues are boosting apprenticeships, because we believe that one of the key issues with the last Labour government was that they focused so much on universities that people didn't really have any other alternative. We want to show that you don't have to go to university, you can go and get a practical sort of apprenticeship and you can get into a job another way.
Okay, no, great. And how similar are these policies to that of Conservative and Labour?
Well, I think one of the key issues is definitely we have promised to invest more in education than any other political party, either than the Conservatives or Labour. And I think it's very important that we've done this because I think, especially in the current government, the Liberal Democrats have been very good at introducing educational policies such as the pupil premium and free school meals, are just a few examples. But I think it's incredibly important that we stand by and invest in education for everybody.
Okay, brilliant. So, in the last 5 years, the Liberal Democrats have claimed to have created 2 million apprenticeships, yes, and having raised the school leaving age to 18.
Yep.
Are these not just Conservative policies as well?
No, I don't agree with you at all on that. I think one of the key things is for the up to 18-year-olds. We were very much behind that, and in the upcoming manifesto, we've put in we will guarantee funding from nursery to 19-year-old for your education, because we believe it's unfair that if we force 17 and 18-year-olds to go to college or school, that they then don't have the funding to buy their own textbooks, to buy the things they need for it. So we've agreed funding for that.
But do you not feel they have to match Labour or Conservative in some way for you to have a chance
when going
of
into,
hang a
okay,
coalition?
Yeah, when going into coalition, you have to make compromises. And I think the Liberal Democrats have felt this especially hard. I think that's fair enough to say. But I think you definitely need to... I mean, Nick Clegg said this is a red line education. And I think you need to stand by... I think we need to stand by that education. I think we will, because I think we have in the past 5 years.
Okay, so moving on to a slightly different area, the Lib Dems have pledged an additional £8 billion needed for the NHS.
Yes.
Given the extensive education spending, which you've done, do you have any idea how both of these might be afforded?
Obviously, I'm not a national candidate, so I'm not an expert in... No, of course, but I think one of the key principles which is different from Conservatives have made all these spending promises on the NHS. They haven't made as many as us on education. But they haven't said they'll increase any taxes, and they haven't really showed us how they're going to pay for it. Whereas the Liberal Democrats, what they've done is, we've said, we genuinely believe it's fair that people with the broadest shoulders, the richest in society, should make a slightly higher contribution. That's why we're including things such as a mansion tax, which will make people who own great big mansions actually pay slightly more into the economy, which I think is a perfectly fair thing to do.
So, with this, do you think it's possible to reduce the borrowing while allowing people to still earn the £12,500?
Well, we've accepted that over the past 5 years we will not get the borrowing completely eradicated, because we believe it's important to continue borrowing for supply side things, so infrastructure, roads, education. We believe this is a very important long-term investment. So we've basically, our borrowing will continue. But what we have done, we've said we will eradicate the structural deficit by the tax year, the financial year of 2017-18.
Okay, so looking at young people in politics, and with only half of the young people turning out to vote at the last general election, what do you think is the best way to encourage young people to get into politics?
Well, this is an incredibly important issue. I mean, for example, you said about the general election, but in the last European election, only 26% of young people actually went out and voted. And I mean, this is an incredibly important, incredibly difficult issue, given the fact that young people are so underrepresented. And I think we need lots more younger people getting involved in politics and standing as candidates like I am. And I'm hoping, if I can, inspire a lot more people, younger people, to stand as candidates, because it will give younger people something to vote for. Because at the moment they feel very disillusioned, and I want to hopefully stop that disillusionment by giving them someone they can trust and someone who they can vote for.
Brilliant. So, when you were much younger, you were involved in politics, and you were a young Conservative, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Do you still hold any of those beliefs?
To be honest with you, what happened was I was a member of the Conservative Party, and I admit that. But I think as the years went on, I became very, very disillusioned with what the Conservatives were doing. I felt that we needed to tax the rich a bit more. I felt quite a lot of their members were quite sort of against gay marriage and things like that. I thought I wasn't really fitting in with the Conservative Party. So what I did, I left the Conservatives. I said thank you very much, because the people there were very nice. I mean, they weren't bad people. I mean, I disagreed with what they said, but they weren't bad people. So I mean, I sort of separated with them. I sort of went a couple of months and just sort of, you know, went a bit politically neutral, looked at all the policies, thought about the way I was thinking about these things, and eventually I decided the Liberal Democrats was the right party for me.
So clearly you have changed your mind. Do you think you'll ever change your mind again?
Well, to be honest, you can't ever tell what the future holds. I'm not going to lie to you and say I'm 100% Lib Dem forever, but I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that the way I've changed my views and opinions on things will stay permanent, but of course you can never know. I mean, no one's a psychic.
Brilliant. Okay, so the Lib Dems won 23% of the vote at the last general election, yes. Whereas they're now only predicted 8%. What do you think has been the cause of this massive decline in support?
I think, first of all, I'd like to say that I think when it comes to the general election, lots of people will vote for candidates, like current MPs, rather than the actual party itself, and I think we'll see a slight boost in the Liberal Democrat support. But I mean, I'm totally going to agree with you, the support has gone down, and I think the key issue here has been that people haven't really understood how coalitions work, and people were expecting, when the Lib Dems came in, to basically get all they wanted in, get all their policies through, and it just hasn't happened. Because I think what we've learned is from the experience of being in coalition is that you can only get, because we were the junior party, I mean, we only had sort of 57 seats, the Tories had over 200, so you've got to think of this in proportion. We were only going to be able to get through certain policies. I think we have got through with our policies through. We've got the increase in the income tax threshold through. We got our referendum on voting reform. It didn't go the way we wanted, but we got the referendum on it. And I mean, we've got lots of things through which Liberal Democrats support, and I think we should be very proud of what we've done in coalition.
Okay, so how many seats do you think this will give you compared to the other parties?
It's very difficult, because this is such an... I mean, this will sound like a very politician-y response, but because this is such an unpredictable election, we really just don't know. It could be anything between... there's just no way of knowing.
Okay, all right. So, are there any Liberal Democrat policies that you disagree with?
Can I give me a second to think about that?
Yeah, go on.
I can't think of any off the top of my head. I mean, if I was to be really critical, I'd probably say I wish they'd push more for more democratic constitution. I think I'd like them to push more for have an entrenched written constitution, kind of like the USA. I think they really need to push more for an elected House of Lords. I mean, we did this, but we need to, I think, push more for it. We need to push for a lot more constitutional reform. I think that would be the key thing.
So apart from that, you're happy with everything they're doing?
We've got a balance, right? I think we've balanced it from the sort of extreme left, which Labour seems to be going down, the extreme right, which the Conservatives are being dragged by UKIP. We've managed to stay in the middle, and I think we've got a really good balanced manifesto this time.
Okay. So if you became councillor, what would be your main focus?
Well, the key thing is representing local constituents. I mean, what I would do is I would go out and I would meet people and I'd see what their issues are. But what we've said are some of our local issues. For example, there's a Short Start Centre called the Mitchett Short Start Centre, which is incredibly important to the local community. It looks after young parents and young children especially, and we want to protect that, make sure that doesn't get closed down. Another key issue we want to reduce, because at the moment in Surrey Heath there are 16 wards, okay, and I'm standing in the ward of Mitchett and Deepcut, and each ward has 2 or 3 councillors elected in it. Okay. So what we do is we reduce the number of councillors, 1 by each ward, so it would go from 40 councillors to 24. Right. And we think, because we just don't see the point, why do you need 3 councillors representing Mitchett and Deepcut when we have 1 MP for the whole of Surrey Heath? That's Michael Gove.
Do you not think that will reduce the chances, though, of people like you trying to get into politics for the first time?
I don't think so, no.
No?
No, no.
Okay, all right. So, Labour are very popular with students and young people. Why should they be voting Lib Dems instead?
Well, I'd say first point, we are going to get the balance right in terms of fixing the financial deficit we've got, the structural deficit. The Labour Party hasn't said which year it's going to reduce the deficit. It says it can't predict which year it's going to be, whereas we've said it will be by 2018, we will get rid of the deficit. Also, our investment in young people and our education system is bigger than any other part, is bigger than Labour or the Conservatives. And also our push for apprenticeships, which I said earlier, Labour forgot about apprenticeships. They kind of abandoned the idea and focused more on university, which basically left lots of people unable to get where they wanted to go.
Okay, all right. So if you can sum up for everyone why they should be voting for Lib Dem, what would be your main points?
Well, what I'd say is that some of the key issues which I haven't mentioned have been environmental issues. The the Liberal Democrats have promised we will get net carbon dioxide emissions to 0 by 2050, and we will try by 2030 to have 60% of our environment, our energy from renewable sources. I mean, this is crucial because environment is our future, the planet is our future, and we should invest in that. And as I said, other things such as our educational policies I think are very good for young people, and also our investment into young parents as well. We're putting in care for kids from age 2, and I think that's very, very important and very, very good for young people.
Brilliant, thank you, Adam, and we wish you all the luck in the election.
Thank you, thanks very much, thank you.
So just a couple of quick fire questions then. Who's your favourite musician?
Otis Redding.
Otis Redding, okay.
Otis Redding, yeah.
What football team do you support?
Oof, Chelsea.
And your favourite food?
Probably say pizza.
And our final one then, who would you rather go on a road trip with, David Cameron or Ed Miliband?
Oh, wow. Probably have to say Ed Miliband. He seems a lot more fun than David Cameron, probably, if I had to pick one. Maybe it's a very difficult choice though.
I think David Cameron might be a safer driver though.
Oh, no, I still go Ed Miliband seemed more fun. I think David Cameron would be a bit, I think he'd probably want to go hunting as well, which probably wouldn't be my sort of thing.
Alright, brilliant. Well, thank you.
No problem, thank you for having me.